In this video, I'd like to talk to you about how to become an effective listener. Coming right up. What is up, everyone? My name is KG and I'm back with another video. So how do you become a better listener or an effective listener? Before we get there, there's a reason why we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. It's because we were meant to listen more and speak less. We have more to gain in listening than we have to gain in speaking. Effective listening is an essential communication skill that can help resolve conflict in all sorts of situations, be it in a relationship context, in a work context, or even a commercial context between a buyer and a seller. So how do you become an effective communicator? Number 1, suspend all preconceived ideas, expectations, or biases about a particular topic, person, or thing. We tend to judge people or situations through the lens of past or present experiences. So whenever we are engaging in a particular topic or whenever we are engaging with a certain type of person, we tend to limit our perspective because we sort of judge that person based on a past experience. Maybe we've dealt with someone like that before, and because of our past experience, we then formulated a narrative about those kind of people, only to find that people are not the same, and our perspective on a particular person might just be completely wrong, because even though people may look the same, even though people may sound the same, not everyone is the same. So in order to be an effective listener, don't make assumptions based on past experiences. For example, if you are a customer service person and maybe you've dealt with a whole lot of customers in your tenure, and because of many experiences that you've had, you then start generalizing in dealing with your customers. You start making assumptions about what you think they want to say, or what you think they actually need assistance with, only to find that one customer's problem is different from the other customer's problem, even though it may sound the same when the customers initially explain what the issue is. So you need to really give every customer your full attention without any assumptions. You may know your job in and out, but never make the mistake of assuming that all customers want the same thing or all customers are the same. You might just jeopardize your own experience in that interaction if you lead the conversation through assumptions. Some customers might just get upset because you're not listening to them. You think and as a result, you then don't pay attention to the finer details of what they're saying. In social science, there's something called unconscious biases, which basically relates to our tendency to prejudge people, situations, or things based on our past experiences or exposures. So it's something that happens almost automatically. It's almost like a reflex reaction in humans, where without even thinking about it, we tend to judge people. We tend to judge things, we tend to judge situations, and most of the time those judgments are inaccurate because they are not really based on the truth. They are not really based on facts. They are purely based on our assumptions. They're purely based on our experiences. And when it comes to experiences, something can happen to you, and because of your state of mind at the time or your understanding at the time, you might just misinterpret the experience. You might just take the experience for what it's not. So think about it. If you are going to then formulate an entire worldview or perspective about certain things based on your experiences, you can be walking around with a whole lot of misconceptions about a whole lot of things. Number two, on how you can become an effective listener. Focus on learning than on being right. Now, most of the time when we are arguing with someone or when we are having some type of intellectual conversation with someone, our ego kicks in and we automatically switch into sort of I want to be right mode, So in order for you to learn, in order for you to be an effective listener, a better communicator, don't argue to be right, As knowledgeable as you are, there's no way that you know everything, Sometimes you just need to humble yourself and approach conversations with a humble mindset, Even if you're talking to someone who you assume or you see to be of lower rank than you, or even if you're engaging in a conversation with someone who is less learned or less literate than you, don't argue to be right, Argue to learn, because you can learn from everyone, regardless of their social status, their rank, their position, So don't argue to be right, argue to learn. Because when you engage in conversation to be right, already you are being biased. Already you are not being as rational as you should be in that conversation, because your perspective is basically, clouded by your desire to be right. So even if the other person makes a valid point, you are not going to consider that point because, in your mind, you just want to be right, and you will never learn like that, Like I said, we have a lot to learn from everyone, regardless of who they are. Number three, listen to learn, don't listen to reply. I'm sure you've experienced this. How many times have you been in a conversation with someone, and as much as they are nodding, as much as they are acting like they're hearing you, but you can see from their gestures that this person is just waiting for the right moment to sort of counter and respond. So basically, whatever that you were saying, it was not really, getting across to them, because in their mind, they just want you to finish so that they can make their point. Again, this ties in with, partaking in conversation to be right, not to learn. So obviously, if you want to win all the time and not willing to learn, you are not going to hear what the other person is saying, because the most important thing to you is being right. The most important thing to you is defending yourself. That's why maybe you are listening to respond, not to learn or to really hear what the other person is saying. So as you can see, the ego is a big obstacle when it comes to effective communication, because the minute you approach a conversation with the intent of defending yourself or of protecting some reputation or some image, then you are off on a bad note. You are off on a bad foot, because a conversation is a two-way process. You can't speak at someone and expect them to speak to you, So in order for someone to speak to you, you also need to speak to them, Number four, don't lose objectivity in the subject based on how someone looks or on who they are. Sometimes we have a tendency to sort of judge people based on how they look. We can maybe listen to someone who is more attractive, and when the same thing is coming from someone who we perceive to be less attractive, then we don't really give them the ear they deserve. So like I said, you can learn from anyone, regardless of how they look, regardless of who they are, regardless of how much money they have. So it's all about not being intimidated as well, because sometimes, we don't make our point because of who we're talking to. Maybe you are in conversation with the CEO, and because of their rank, you then are afraid to make your point, even if you know that you have a valid point to make. But because of the status of this person, you then lose that objectivity. You then lose that courage to say, but hey, have you considered this? Have you considered that? Treat people the same regardless of how they are, whether it's in conversation, whether it's in how you engage people in general. Don't treat people according to what they have or according to who they are. Be the same in any situation. And number 5, maintain a beginner's mindset. The Bible says, unless ye be like little children. I think this was Jesus actually who said these words. Unless ye be like little children, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven. And what that is all about is meekness. No matter how much you think you know, always consider that we never outgrow learning. No matter how learned you are, no matter how many degrees you have, you can still learn. So whatever topic you are in conversation about, approach it with a beginner's mindset. Never assume that you know everything, because the minute you think you know everything, that's when you stop learning. Everyone is in a journey of learning and it never stops. So you basically you become better whenever you approach situations with a beginner's mindset, regardless of how much you know, regardless of how many credentials you have. Always treat yourself as someone who doesn't know anything, and in that way you then have wisdom that most people do not have. Most people like to show off how much they know. Most people like to show off their degrees, but the wisest ones are those that are always willing to learn regardless of who they are learning from. And number 6, remove all external distractions. We live in a time where there's more distractions than ever before. There's social media, there's multiple music streaming platforms. So, everything is basically crying or demanding our attention. And what we tend to do, whether it's in a context of relationships, maybe, spending time with our partner, speaking to our partner, sometimes we don't hear them because we are distracted. Your partner might be making a valid point, but you are thinking about TikTok, you're thinking about, your last post on Facebook, you're thinking about what's playing in the background. So if you won't give someone your full attention, you might as well not talk to them, because, giving someone your divided attention is an insult. So in order to become an effective listener, thus a better communicator, you need to remove all distractions. Even if you are going through a lot, even if you are stressed, when you're speaking to someone about something, suspend all your worries, suspend everything that you are worried about, so that you can have a meaningful conversation with that person. Who knows, that person might even have a solution for your problem that you are worrying about, but you are depriving yourself and them the opportunity to connect, because, as you're speaking to them, you are nodding, you seem like you are listening, but, in your mind, there's a million thoughts running through your mind at that time. So in order to become a better communicator, an effective listener, you need to really be present. You really need to be present. You need to be in the moment, so that not only will you then hear, but you can also understand what the other person is saying. And that pretty much brings us to the end of the video, guys. Thanks a lot for watching. If you liked it, please like, share, and comment. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and hit that notification bell as well, so that you can be notified every time I upload videos like this. Thanks again for watching. Until next time, peace.